Hi, I'm Margaret Thompson, 32, back in Detroit. At my parents' anniversary, 50 relatives watched my father grin. He lifted a glass, then gutted me with practiced words. "You'll never amount to anything." The room pretended not to hear. For years, he stole credit for my work, called it mentorship. That night, something in me broke clean instead of bending. I decided to expose what he's done behind my back. The party wasn't a celebration. It was my ignition. And you won't believe what happened when I finally spoke. But this time, I wasn't leaving the room in silence. I grew up on Maple Street, suburban Detroit, middle child. Two brothers flanked me. Order and tradition flanked everything else. Dad Frank ran a factory floor. Mom Helen typed minutes. Dreams were measured by pay-ups and sensible shoes. At 8, I rated curbs for broken VCRs and towers. Spread circuit boards on newspaper, learned the language of traces. 3 months later, my basement computer finally breathed a cursor. It sprinted upstairs, glowing to show Mismal Miracle. Frank never looked up. Beer sweating rings, paper snapping warnings. Girls don't need computers. Margaret, go help your mother. His words punctured me cleaner than a screwdriver through plastic. In high school, I built an inventory system from scratch, predicted shortages, optimized orders, reduced waste with patient math, first place at regionals, state qualification, tiny newspaper photo. Dad missed it for overtime, said competitions weren't real life. At home, he slept. My ribbons sate in silence. Counselor said MIT. I carried applications like contraband. Frank barked community college secretarial track. Sensible future, Sunley. Girls don't become engineers. Be realistic. Stop dreaming. I applied anyway, bagging groceries, tutoring, filing midnight essays. Acceptance arrived with 60% scholarship and shaking hands. Frank called it debt for a degree I'd never use. Meanwhile, my brothers earned applause for business plans and garages. I learned applause wasn't coming. I learned to journal, keep receipts, keep dates, keep the version that doesn't vanish. At 18, I packed 2 suitcases and a blue ribbon. Boston felt terrifying, precise, like stepping onto honest ice. For once, brilliance wasn't weird. Hunger wasn't feminine. Still, his voice traveled states and sat in lectures. "Don't get carried away," he'd say, even through memory. "Pass your classes, get a job, stop naming miracles." I should have known then. Approval wouldn't arrive with diplomas. I should have known the next theft was already walking. It wore my last name and smiled for our neighbors. But I wasn't ready for how far he'd go. MIT sharpened me like winter sharpens glass. Tiny dorm, bigger hunger, labs humming past midnight. I learned to debug without flinching, to ask precisely junior year. A problem hooked its teeth in me. Warehouses bled cash because guesses replaced math. I chased patterns through logs like tracks in new snow. Built an algorithm that listened harder than managers do. Seasonality, promos, shocks, each weight-tuned and tested. Pilots cut waste by 30%. My advisor said, "Publish and maybe patent." I phoned home because good news wants witnesses. "Dad, it works." "Shelves won't go empty," he grunted. "Every student thinks their homework changes the world. Pass your classes. Get a job. Quit naming miracles." So I kept building. Nights stitched with ramen and proofs, presented at a conference. Industry folks asked for cards. I had no cards, just a cheap folder and fire. 6 months later, Mom's careful voice. "Don't be mad at your father, Trouble." Frank told his friend Bill about his warehouse idea. They installed a system like mine. It's working. Bill sending thanks to Dad for the brilliant solution. The room tilted like a badlevator. Did he say it came from me? Silence. Then he didn't want to complicate things with college projects. I confronted him. He laughed. "Academic theory," he said. "I simplified it so business could use. If anything, I improved you. That algorithm was months of proofs, not a fishing story. I printed drafts, dated commits, emails, receipts, filed them in a box labeled property, do not edit. New rule protects your work. Some thieves share your last name." Senior year, I shipped code, shipped grades, shipped boundaries, graduated summa, packed 2 suitcases and a promise. San Francisco buzzed like voltage I could finally hold. Small team, real users. We listened to pain points breathe. I rewrote core tools, crashes dropped. Clients stayed. Janet slid a promotion across the table, smiling. I called home. Habit is hard muscle. He minimized with me. Bragged to neighbors later. 2 stories, 1 mouse, whichever earned shinier applause. I started a company at my kitchen table, Thomson Database Solutions, stubborn founder, stubborn results. 12 restaurants, then more. Spreadsheets became living systems. Trade magazines called. We grew. I bought a house. Who warned it was foolish? A money pit, paper profits. Then waved the magazine and called himself my mentor. Pride in public, dismissal in private, the axis of him. I kept receipts and kept moving. Momentum is quiet until someone tries to stop it. And someone was always ready with a toast and a knife. I thought the algorithm theft was the worst of it. I hadn't seen how far his fiction had traveled. How many ears he'd trained to clap on cue. The anniversary would hand Meath microphone. I was ready. Growth came fast. Referrals, contracts, lights that stayed late. A trade magazine ran a spread. Clients called me founder. Back home, a different story was already on tour. Aunt Carol sent a church bulletin. Frank Thompson, mentor to his tech entrepreneur daughter, Margaret. It claimed he'd guided my business plan from day one. None of those words were mine or true. Uncle Raymond texted a plant newsletter photo. Dad holding a plaque, lean innovation, warehouse efficiency. Caption, Frank's idea reduced waste across partner facilities. The idea matched my junior year algorithm. I called Mom. Why is it credited for my work? Silence. He likes show it sounds, she said. I can't keep correcting him when people clap. Neighbors tagged me praising Dad's business sense. Relatives sent congrats for the company we built together. History was being rewritten with his name in the margins. I flew to Detroit to prep the anniversary party. 50 guests, catering, flowers, a jazz trio, paid deposits, mapped seating, hid cords. Dad hovered like a foreman over someone else's steel. To the florist, Icos Helen's colors myself. To the caterer, keep the ribs. My idea front and center. If a sentence started with, he wore it, credit was a code and never took off. In the den, a manila folder waited on a chair. Anniversary talking points, Frank. My name appeared 6 times before page 2, praise braided to eraser. Margaret's always been a dreamer. One line read, high-tech toys, expensive lessons. I kept her grounded, mentored her through turbulence, told her when to pivot. Real success comes from practical men and steady hands. A script for theft performed as affection. I closed the folder and breathed. That night, it printed what I'd avoided. The science fair clipping, the MIT letter, the conference program, emails from clients, dated contracts, option grants, a photo of Dad's plaque beside my abstract. I slid them into sleeves, tabbed like a courtroom, not to humiliate, only to puncture the myth. If truth needs oxygen, paper is how it breathes. If memory fails, timestamps don't. I rehearsed once, then closed the binder. Not a speech, just coordinates back to reality. Tomorrow the room would heart-woo versions of me, polished and paternal and inconvenient. True. I wasn't a footnote in his victory lap anymore. I was the author, stepping onto me own page. The toast would come and with it the cut. By 6, the house was dressed like a memory. String lights, polite jazz, 50 plates waiting for a toast. Frank clinked his glass. 25 years and a lesson on success. He praised my brothers for practical careers, steady hands, real work. Then his eyes found me like a searchlight across the room. Our Margaret's a dreamer, he said. High-tech toys, not real work. Between us, she'll never amount to anything substantial. Forks froze. Helen stared at the floor. I stood with the binder in my hand, breath steady. If we're doing honesty, he said, let's do all of it. Don't make a scene, he hissed. You made it, I said back. I faced the room. You've heard his version for years. Here's mine, and I brought dates to match it. High school science fair, blue ribbon. He skipped it as trivial. MIT acceptance with scholarship. He said women don't belong. I worked 2 jobs and paid for the rest. Conference abstract for my inventory algorithm. He gave it to Bill and Bill thanked him loudly. Magazine spread on my San Francisco team and product. He called it hype to me, then bragged he mentored it. Plant newsletter with his plaque reading lean innovation. That so-called innovation was my junior year algorithm. Ask my advisor. The timestamps don't stutter or forget, Frank tried. She's emotional. Correct, I answered, not confused. For 20 years, he dismissed me in private and quiet, then wore my work in public like a suit that fit. If you think I'll never amount to anything, Dad, stop telling people you built me from the ground. The room exhaled. Uncle Raymond said, I'm sorry, I believed him. Aunt Carol nodded with wet eyes. We all did. Maybe I misspoke, Frank murmured. I was proud. Helen stood. That wasn't pride. It was manipulation for years. My brothers crossed over, awkward and finally honest. We should have said something, David said. We didn't know, Michael added. Frank tried one more angle. I prepared you for the real world. I built OWN, I said. You took the credit. I closed the binder. Final but not loud. From now on, no more borrowed stories about my work. No fake mentorship, no edits, no convenient myths. Speak the truth about me or don't speak at all. No applause, just air getting honest insmol clusters. I packed the documents. Helen squeezed my hand. Permission granted. Frank stared at the glass he'd raised to cut me. It looked small in his big, practiced hand. At the hallway photos, my caption watched me pass. Good with computers had lived there like Ashrug. Rewrite it, I told Helen gently, or take it down. Outside, Michigan Knight finally stopped pretending to be kind. He didn't run or cry. I chose the door instead, not an exit this time, an entrance I'd postponed for years. It thought speaking up would end it. It should have known the aftermath would try to rewrite me again. The next morning, my phone tried to reopen the scene. Missed calls, careful texts, a long message from Aunt Carol. Frank posted nothing. For once, silence was accurate. I wrote one email, short-dated, saved with the others. If my work is mentioned, speak truth or skip my name. No interviews on my behalf. No mentorship claims. Any repeat requires public correction. Consider this final. I didn't wait for replies. I went to work. We signed 2 new clients before lunch. The team cheered. I ordered pizza, raised a paper cup, and breathed. Not triumph, clarity, the luxury of being fully named. That week, I flew back to San Francisco Light. I met with our interns, 3 women from Detroit schools. We drew database schemas and talked about gatekeepers' voices. Keep notes, I said. Keep receipts. Keep your spine. Helen called on Sunday from the quiet kitchen. I changed the caption, she said, voice steady, almost proud. Now it reads, Margaret, engineer, founder, the one who built. Sometimes love arrives late, but it still knows the door. Frank didn't apologize. He adjusted. Less boasting, fewer edits. Boundaries aren't punishments. They're operating manuals for staying human. I learned approval can be a leash with a bow. Cutting it isn't cruelty. It's finally walking your pace. I stopped auditioning for a father who wanted understudies. I stopped shrinking so history could fit the frame. When relatives asked what happened, I told it plain. Not rage, records, not gossip, gravity. The truth holds. At night, I kept the binder on the shelf, visible but closed. I don't reread it to ache. I keep it the way you keep a fire extinguisher, hoping you won't need it, grateful you have it. If you're living under someone else's narration, hear me. Your work is not a costume for another person's stage. You can love and leave, forgive, and still refuse access. You can draw a line and call it home. What broke me wasn't one toast, one sentence, one room. It was the slow scrape of being unnamed for years. What remade me was simple, ordinary, stubborn repetition. Say your name. Say your work. Say it again. I'm Margaret Thompson. I built this with both hands. The door I chose wasn't an exit. It was entrance. There's space here for anyone ready to be whole. Bring your notes. Bring your breath. Isaved you a chair. If you faced this credit stolen, voice dismissed, story bent, you're not alone. Tell me in the comments below. Have you ever had to claim your name back? Like, subscribe, share this with someone who needs Aspine.